Now on Denver 7 News at 4, a plea for help.
All these children and young people are being killed by drunk drivers.
One mom's crusade to encourage drivers to think twice before getting behind the wheel after drinking.
From COVID to polio, wastewater testing is playing a growing role in keeping us safe. What could be next for this type of health surveillance? And police departments are now realizing they may never have the number of officers they used to. How that is changing how they operate.
But first, a story you heard first from Denver 7 Investigates earlier today. A former Denver health paramedic is accused of stealing vials of the potent synthetic opioid, fentanyl. Thank you for joining us. I'm Micah Smith. Christopher Robert Pattinson is now facing 20 counts of tampering with a consumer product and 38 counts of obtaining a controlled substance by deceit. Denver 7 CB Cotton was at U.S. District Court as Pattinson made his first appearance and joins us live now. CB, walk us through today's proceedings.
Micah, today Christopher Robert Pattinson remained quiet and handcuffed as a judge reviewed the charges he's facing. Again, as you said, this is a former Denver health paramedic accused of stealing or tampering with vials of fentanyl. I want to review what we know right now. According to court documents, Pattinson either stole or tampered with vials from November 2018 through January of this year. In a statement to Denver 7, Denver Health says it became aware of a possible drug theft in January. The healthcare system then started its own investigation, and shortly after, Pattinson was fired. Court docs say the former paramedic took 50 vials of fentanyl, claiming they went to patients, when he actually took them for himself. The indictment also accuses Pattinson of removing fentanyl citrate from vials and replacing it with another substance. Now, we reached out to Pattinson's attorney after today's court hearing. He declined to comment. In a statement to Denver 7, Denver Health says no patients went without medication because of Pattinson's actions. The healthcare system also says no patients were harmed because of the way this former paramedic behaved. We're going to have much more coming up in later newscasts. Reporting live, I'm CB Cotton, Denver 7.
Very concerning there, CB. Great reporting. Denver 7 Chief Investigator Tony Kovaleski has been looking into problems like this one for a while now. He'll share more of what he's learned coming up tonight on Denver 7 News at 5 and at 6. Crashes and fatalities are increasing on Colorado's roads and have been since the pandemic started. And one local mom can't stand to see the lives taken as a result of impaired driving. Renee Lund's son, Tanner Lund, is a victim of suspected drunk driving. Tanner was 19 when he died following a crash in March of this year. It happened at the intersection of 98th and Federal when Tanner was trying to make a legal left turn. Renee says another vehicle ran the light and hit Tanner. Now, almost 6 months after his death, she hopes his story gives everyone a reason to pause before getting behind the wheel.
All these children and young people are being killed by drunk drivers, and it just, I don't know how to wrap my head around all of that. But I also want, people to understand that Tanner didn't do anything wrong. He was literally a victim of homicide, a vehicular homicide.
Tomorrow morning, the suspect accused of killing Tanner in March will be in Adams County Court. He's charged with 2 counts of vehicular homicide, 1 DUI, and reckless driving. Denver students started heading back to the classroom today. Denver Public Schools hosted a 2022-23 school year kickoff event at Ellis Elementary this morning. Superintendent Dr. Alex Marrero and Denver Mayor Michael Hancock were on hand to give high fives and welcome kids back to school. Parents we talked to said their kids were ready for the new school year and were excited to meet their teachers.
So excited to be back in the classroom. And my daughter's looking forward to it.
The teachers are all excited. I'm comfortable and I feel well informed, and I think she's getting set up for a great, wonderful year here at Ellis.
Now, this is the first year the district could welcome back students in person without mask requirements since the pandemic started. Students going back into those schools this morning may have noticed some safety upgrades since the last time they were in the building. All DPS schools now have secured doors. The doors have alarms if they're forced open or when they're propped open for too long. Office staff will be immediately notified. They'll have immediate access to cameras showing areas surrounding the door. DPS also says they've replaced 900 cameras and added 1,200 more.
If you keep bad things out of your building, you're ahead of the game. And so we've really invested a lot of time in access control and monitoring our entrances to our buildings and single point of entry to emphasize a secure perimeter and funneling everybody in and having checkpoints throughout that process.
Pfizer has submitted its application to the FDA today for emergency use of its new COVID booster that targets Omicron. Company data says the booster generated a strong antibody response to both Omicron and other variants. The White House's COVID response coordinator says that these boosters could be available as soon as next month. Pfizer says it has doses ready to ship as soon as the FDA gives authorization. An additional 1.8 million monkeypox vaccine doses are now available for local health departments to order from the CDC. Demand is rising. A smaller amount can now be given between skin layers so that vials can be stretched further. Anyone can get monkeypox. There are now more than 14,000 cases across the country, according to the CDC. Texas, Florida, New York, and California have some of the largest concentrations. Now, the man who became the face of America's COVID response says he plans to retire by the end of the year. Dr. Anthony Fauci is stepping down from his many positions. That includes that of chief medical advisor to the president. He's advised presidents for 38 years. That began under President Reagan. Now, while many of us associate Dr. Fauci with COVID, he has also guided the country through HIV/AIDS, anthrax attacks, and Ebola. He says that his next step will be mentoring the next generation of scientists. Well, there is new help available starting today for small Black-owned businesses hit hard by the pandemic. The Coalition to Back Black Businesses is handing out $5,000 grants to business owners trying to rebound. Now, this is the third year that the group has done this. Nearly 300 grants are available for those eligible.
We really hope to strengthen the individual businesses.
Now, when COVID hit, it is estimated that more than 40% of small Black-owned employers closed, and this left many towns without businesses essential to their communities.
These grants don't go to the handful of communities that have remained very prosperous over the past few years. You know, we sort of cut out the top 20% most prosperous communities and concentrate in these communities where local businesses are suffering and they are anchor institutions for their communities.
He says business owners can use the money to cover things like hiring, payroll, and utilities.
And so obviously, when you ask any Black-owned business owner, a lot of time, the number one thing they need is access to capital, and so that's the grants.
Now, roughly 1,100 businesses have benefited from this money over the last 2 years. And if you're interested, you can go to webackblackbusinesses.com. The deadline to apply is September 6th. Now, more departments are preparing for the new possible reality of a smaller police force.
I think over many years, we've always thought that we did this in a vacuum on our own. It's just a police officer's job. It is a police officer's job. And we've come to learn and know that it is not.
The new types of partnerships they're forming to keep our communities safe in a different way.
Sure, it's a bright and sunny, even dry day here in the metro, but that doesn't mean we're not thinking about ski season. Up next on Denver 7 News at 4, we'll take a look at when some of your favorite resorts plan to turn on the lifts this fall.